Have you ever opened your bank app, stared at a number that should feel good, and still felt like something was quietly wrong? Picture this. It's a Tuesday. You're a senior engineer at a company most people would kill to work for. You cleared $160,000 last year. You drive something sleek, you live somewhere nice, and your LinkedIn is basically a highlight reel. From the outside, you look like the algorithm worked, like you solved it. But here's what nobody sees. You wake up at 2 a.m. with a low-grade anxiety that doesn't have a name. Not panic, just a hum, a background process you can't kill. Because somewhere in the back of your mind, you know that if your company does a 15% RIF next quarter, you have about 11 weeks before the whole architecture collapses. The car lease doesn't care about your severance. The rent doesn't pause for your job search. The subscriptions, the 7 streaming services, the gym you visit in your imagination, the software tools you forgot you signed up for, they don't negotiate. You're not broke. You're cash flow dependent, and that is so much more dangerous than breaking because it's invisible. Broke has urgency. Cash flow dependence has comfort. It has a nice apartment and a good parking spot, and just enough dopamine to keep you from auditing the system. My name is Alex. I spent 15 years in the tech world, building scalable systems, distributed architectures, zero downtime deployments, the kind of infrastructure that doesn't flinch when traffic spikes. And somewhere around year 9, I realized I had been treating my financial life like a monolith I was too busy to refactor. I was running my wealth on legacy code that was designed at a foundational level to keep me liquid enough to keep spending, but never free enough to stop working. Today, I'm going to give you the full system audit, not motivation, not cut your lattes energy. I'm talking about a logic-driven, mathematically sound, automated architecture, 3 accounts, clearly defined roles, and a compounding engine that will keep running whether you're paying attention or not. This is the big exit made easy. It's not new age thinking, it's new logic, and it is safe because math doesn't have an ego, it just runs. Let's start with the actual problem, not the surface symptom, the root cause. Here's what's actually happening to high earners who feel quietly broke. It's not that you're bad with money, it's that you have a memory leak. If you've ever worked on a long-running application that slowly consumed more and more RAM until the whole thing crashed, you know what I'm describing. Nobody introduced one giant bug. There was no single catastrophic line of code. Instead, small objects were allocated, used once, and never released. They just sat there, accumulating, invisible until the system seized. That's lifestyle creep, and it is the most elegant financial trap ever designed, because it doesn't feel like a trap, it feels like progress. You got a raise, so you upgraded your car. You got a bonus, so you moved into a nicer place. You got promoted, so of course you started flying business class. You're a senior now. You've earned it. Each individual decision was reasonable, but the memory was never freed. Every upgrade became a fixed cost. Every fixed cost became a floor you had to earn above just to stay in place. And now you're not building wealth, you're maintaining a lifestyle. You're running a maintenance script, not a growth engine. The technical term for what you've built is high-latency financial infrastructure. High latency in systems means there's a long delay between input and output. You put in effort, hours, expertise, energy, and by the time the output clears your expenses, there's almost nothing left to route toward actual asset accumulation. The system is technically functioning, it's just never fast enough to get ahead. Compounding is quiet, quicksand is loud, and right now, for most high earners, the loud stuff is winning. So how do we fix it? We debug the architecture, step by step. Debug step 1. Audit the stack and identify who you actually are. Before we touch a single account or move a single dollar, we need to do something harder. We need to change the operating identity. Right now, most high earners are running as consumers. Consumers see income as fuel for experience and status. Consumers optimize for present tense satisfaction. Consumers' primary relationship with money is as a spending unit. You need to switch the user role. You are not a consumer. You are the lead architect of your capital. And an architect's first job isn't to build, it's to understand the existing system before touching anything. So here's your audit task. Pull every single recurring charge from the last 90 days, every subscription, every auto pay, every free trial that was quietly converted. List them. Don't judge yet, just see the stack. Most engineers I've walked through this exercise find between $400 and $900 in monthly spend they had genuinely forgotten about.
Oh no, not again! I can't believe I forgot! They're sucking me dry! $700!
Not spend they disagreed with, spend they had no conscious awareness of. That's the memory leak made visible. Now ask the architect's question. Is this allocation serving a strategic purpose, or is it just occupying memory? If it's the latter, free it. That freed capital is now available to routing. Debug Step 2. Install the 15-65-20 allocation framework before your brain gets involved. Here is where most financial advice fails you. It tells you to budget as if willpower is the solution to a structural problem. It isn't. Willpower is the worst possible architecture for anything you want to run long term. The engineers who built the best systems I've ever worked with didn't rely on their teammates to manually execute every function. They automated the mission-critical paths and reserved human decision-making for edge cases only. Same principle here. The moment your paycheck lands, the split happens automatically, before you see it, before you feel it, before your brain starts negotiating. 15% of your net income routes directly to your investment account. No exceptions, no manual transfers, no "I'll do it next week."
Your investment account is like a secure vault. The money you put in grows, just like this arrow. It's safe and secure.
65% covers your true operating costs, housing, food, transportation, the actual life you're living. 20% goes to your freedom fund, which is your liquid cushion, your opportunity capital, and your emergency architecture. Write it down. 15/65/20. That's not a suggestion. That's the new system spec. The math is brutal, but the freedom is better. If you're earning $10,000 a month net and you install this framework today, you are routing $1,500 every single month into compounding assets. That's $18,000 in year one. With an 8% average annual return, historically conservative, you're at roughly $26,000 at the end of year two, because the first year's contributions are already compounding, while year two's contributions stack on top. By year 10, you're sitting on approximately $260,000 in invested assets, and the curve at that point isn't moving up in a straight line anymore, it's bending. Which brings me to the chart I want you to visualize right now. If you look at an XY axis where the X is time in years and Y is account value, the line for a standard savings account is essentially horizontal, maybe a 40-degree angle at generous interest rates, but fundamentally linear. Now draw the compounding investment curve on the same graph. For the first 3 to 5 years, it doesn't look that different. It's frustrating. It feels like it isn't working. But somewhere around year 6 or 7, the curve stops looking like a slope and starts looking like a launch pad. The interest being generated exceeds the monthly contributions. The system is feeding itself. It doesn't just move up, it teleports. That's the moment your money starts doing more work than you are. That is the entire goal. Debug Step 3. Kill the subscription to staying average. Let's talk about debt. Specifically, the kind of debt that wears a status disguise. A car payment is just a subscription to staying average. I know that's uncomfortable. I know the car feels earned. But let's run the actual math like architects, not like consumers. A $750 monthly car payment over a 60-month lease is $45,000 in spend on a depreciating asset that you don't own at the end. If instead you routed that $750 per month into an index fund for 5 years at 8% annualized returns, you'd have approximately $55,000, not $45,000 spent on nothing, $55,000 in assets that keep compounding after you stop contributing. Your promotion is a trap if your bills invited it to stay. This is the most dangerous pattern I see in high-earning tech professionals. They get a raise, and within 90 days, their fixed costs have expanded to absorb it. The promotion didn't create freedom, it just raised the floor. Now they need the next promotion to stay solvent. They're on a treadmill that moves faster every year, but never takes them anywhere. The identity shift here is you aren't buying things, you are making capital allocation decisions. Every purchase is a routing decision. You are choosing between present state consumption and future state optionality. When you internalize that frame, the car payment doesn't feel like a reward anymore. It feels like a system configuration error. And this extends beyond the car. Look at your housing decision. Look at the premium apartment you chose because it felt appropriate for your income level. There's nothing wrong with wanting a good home, but ask the architect's question. Is this allocation accelerating your exit or anchoring you to the income treadmill? A $600 difference in monthly rent routed to your compounding engine instead is worth approximately $110,000 over 10 years at a modest return. That is not a sacrifice, that's a trade, a deliberate, rational trade between a slightly larger kitchen today and a completely different life in a decade.
Wow, a whole 110K! That's huge just from the rent difference? Yes, this is incredible!
The high earner who understands this doesn't feel deprived, they feel sharp, because every dollar they don't route toward lifestyle inflation is a dollar the compounding engine just recruited. And that dollar doesn't clock out, it doesn't ask for a raise, it just compounds quietly while you live your life. Assets over accolades every time. But here's where the math gets weird. Most people, when they hear this framework, think the counter-argument is, but what about enjoying life now? What about quality of life? And I want to address that head-on, because it's the most important stress test we can run on this system. The standard advice, put everything in a high-yield savings account, live below your means, and wait, is not a wealth strategy. It's a poverty mitigation strategy with better marketing. A high-yield savings account at 4.5% in a 3.2% inflation environment is giving you a real return of approximately 1.3%. After taxes, you're likely losing purchasing power. That is not a system optimization. That's a system failure dressed up as responsibility. The fear-based version of financial planning keeps you liquid, but never free. It optimizes for safety without understanding that the greatest financial risk for a high earner isn't market volatility, it's time. Every year you spend cash flow dependent is a year the compounding engine wasn't running. You cannot get that time back. Nonlinear math is only nonlinear if you install it early enough for the curve to bend. Solve for freedom, not for status, and understand that staying safe in a low-yield account while inflation runs is the least safe thing a high earner can do to their advantage. Debug Step 4. Build the 3-account architecture. Now we get to the actual deliverable. 3 accounts, 3 jobs, 0 overlap. Account 1 is your operations account. This is your 65%. The account your direct deposit hits, the account your bills pull from, the account that handles the present tense of your life. Its only job is to fund your operating costs without leaking into investment territory. You set it up with auto pays for every fixed expense. You give it one job and you don't ask it to do anything else. It's the API endpoint for your lifestyle, nothing more. Account 2 is your compounding engine account. This is where your 15% lands automatically on payday. This account is not for emergencies. It is not for opportunity. It is not for I'll borrow from it and put it back. It is a one-way valve. Money goes in, money does not come out except to rebalance or compound further. You connect it to a low-cost index fund or a target date fund appropriate for your timeline, and you do not touch it. You are not a trader. You are an architect. The system runs. You don't micromanage it. The identity shift here is critical. You are not buying this money. You are making capital allocation decisions to deploy capital to work on your behalf while you sleep. Account 3 is your freedom fund. This is your 20%. It has two functions running simultaneously. First, it is your liquidity buffer, your emergency runway, ideally 6 months of operating costs, built up over 12 to 18 months of consistent routing. Second, once that buffer is established, it becomes your opportunity capital. This is the account that lets you say yes to the right things, the angel investment, the certification that accelerates your career, the strategic career gap that would have been impossible when you were cash flow dependent. Wealth is the optionality you didn't spend. This account is where optionality lives. 3 accounts, 3 jobs. The entire architecture fits on an index card, but the discipline isn't in understanding it. You already understand it. The discipline is in the identity shift that makes you protect the system even when your environment is loudly suggesting you upgrade your lifestyle instead. Debug Step 5. Run the stress test on your future self. The final step isn't a financial move, it's a scenario simulation. Architects don't just build systems, they red team them. They ask, what happens when this fails? Where are the single points of failure? Run this scenario. Your company announces a layoff tomorrow. Where are you in 90 days? If you have the 3-account architecture in place, here's what actually happens. Your operations account keeps running. Your compounding engine keeps compounding. It doesn't care that you're unemployed. Your freedom fund gives you a 6-month runway to find the right next role, not just the fastest one. You are not desperate. You are not underwater. You have optionality. You can negotiate from a position of stability instead of fear. You can say no to the lowball offer. You can take 2 weeks to actually think before you sign. You can treat a layoff as a system reboot instead of a system failure. That is not a small thing. That is the entire game. The difference between a high earner who builds wealth and a high earner who stays cash flow dependent often has nothing to do with salary. It has everything to do with whether they had a system running in the background when life threw an unplanned event at them. Career gaps, health events, market contractions, industry pivots, these aren't rare. They are guaranteed to happen in some form over a 30-year career. The architecture you build now is the difference between those events being setbacks and being disasters. Now run the alternative scenario. No architecture, high fixed costs, lifestyle at 95% of income. What happens in 90 days? You know what happens. That's why you're watching this video. The math doesn't have an ego. It just runs the simulation and shows you the output. The question is whether you want to be the person who installed the system before they needed it, or the person who wished they had. Here's where I want to introduce something that ties this all together: the Wealth System Dashboard. Think of it as your financial throughput monitor, the single view where you can see your operations account coverage ratio, your compounding engine contribution velocity, and your freedom fund runway in real time. Just like you wouldn't run production infrastructure without observability tooling, you shouldn't run your wealth architecture without a dashboard that tells you whether the system is healthy. The specific metrics you want to track monthly are simple. What percentage of income was successfully routed to the compounding engine? Is it 15% or above? What is your freedom fund runway in months? Is it trending towards 6 or away from it? And what is your lifestyle to income ratio? Is the 65% holding, or is lifestyle creep starting to allocate more memory than your budget allows? These 3 numbers tracked consistently will tell you everything you need to know about whether your system is compounding or stagnating. You don't need to be a financial genius. You need to be an architect who checks the dashboard and responds to the data, not the noise. The noise is loud right now. New car models, bigger apartments, colleagues who look like they're winning because they're spending loudly.
Remember, compounding is quiet. Quicksand is loud. The person quietly maxing their investment account every month doesn't look impressive at the company happy hour. They look exactly the same. But 5 years from now, they are categorically not the same. They have the curve. They have a bend. They have the exit option that the loud spenders don't. Solve for freedom, not for the appearance of it. Let me close with the only question that actually matters. You came into this with a number that should feel good and an anxiety background that doesn't have a name. I'm telling you, anxiety has a name. It's architectural debt. It's the gap between what you earn and what your system is actually designed to do with that earning. The good news, and I mean this as an engineer, not as a motivational speaker, is that architectural debt is fixable. It's not a character flaw. It's a configuration error, and configuration errors have solutions. 3 accounts, 15, 65, 20. One-way valve on the compounding engine, 6-month runway in the Freedom Fund, identity locked as lead architect, not consumer.
I'm the lead architect and the consumer. I design it and I use it. It's the perfect combination.
That's the whole system. It's not complicated. Math doesn't require a finance degree. It requires a decision that you are no longer going to let your income arrive and disappear into a lifestyle that serves everyone's business model except yours. Assets over accolades, nonlinear math over linear effort, freedom over the subscription to staying average. The system is ready to install. The only variable is when you start. And every month you delay is a month the curve doesn't bend. The longer you wait, the more expensive the delay becomes. Not in dollars you spend, but in compounding you forfeit it. Understanding how to build this 3-account architecture is just the beta test. If you want to see what happens when the math truly goes non-linear, when your invested assets start generating more than your monthly contributions, click the video on your screen right now to see exactly how to accelerate your compounding engine past the tipping point. Let's keep turning your money into freedom.